Welcome to our Shield Read-Only training session. This session is intended for read-only users of Shield, those who can see content in Shield but cannot edit that content. If you're not sure whether or not you are a read-only user, please check with your plan administrator. And if you're not sure who your plan administrator is, you can email us, support@kingsbridgebcp.com, and we can let you know. That email address will come up a number of times during this video, so if you've missed it, don't worry, it will be referenced again. Today we're going to show you how to use Shield on your desktop computer and on your mobile device. If you have questions during the video today, there are a couple of ways to get those questions answered. You can go to our support page, support.kingsbridgebcp.com, or you can email us, support@kingsbridgebcp.com. So let's get started. You're currently looking at the login screen for Shield. Shield is an online application that hosts business continuity and disaster recovery plans. The application can be accessed via the web as well as via our free mobile app, which we'll take a look at a little later in this video. When you first get access to Shield from your plan administrator, you'll receive two emails that are generated from the Shield system. The first will be a welcome email indicating that you've been granted access to Shield, and the second will contain your password, which you will use to log in, along with the email address that the password was sent to, typically your work email. The passwords are computer generated, so they don't tend to be very user-friendly. We're going to talk today about how we can change that password to something that is customized for you. Be sure to take note of the URL for Shield. You will need the HTTPS at the beginning, followed by shieldbcp.com. This is the page you should be bookmarking, both on your work computer and your home computer, as disasters can happen after hours, and it's always good to be able to log into your plan from anywhere when a business interruption occurs. Your email address is your username and unique identifier in Shield. If your email address ever changes, for example, you have a name change, you need to notify your plan administrator so that you can log into Shield using your new email address. So you'll enter your email address on the main page here and then click Continue. Now, your password will be on one of those two emails you received from the Shield system. I mentioned that these passwords are a little ugly, so I encourage you to copy and paste the password into the password field you see here until you've had an opportunity to change it to something easier to use. Now, if you've forgotten your password or you just can't find that email Shield sent you with your password, at this point, you can simply click the Forgot Password link and Shield will send a new password to you. So I'm logging in today as a read-only user, as that is the user type that we are focused on for today's session. We'll do a little walk around Shield so you can see what you can do. If you're logging into Shield for the first time, you'll be directed to our launch page, which is what you see here. However, if you were recently using Shield, it will generally log you back into wherever you were last. This launch page basically gives you an overview of what you have access to in Shield. On the top left, you'll see the three main components of Shield that a read-only user has access to: My Plan, My Tasks, and Supporting Documents. We're going to take a look at each of these in some detail. Now, for those that are following along in their own Shield account, this is where things might start to look a little different for you. There are different subscription levels to Shield, so depending on the subscription that your company has opted to use, you may see slight variations on your screen. In particular, the My Tasks component is only offered to our Platinum subscribers, so you may not see this on your screen. In this session, we're going to be focusing on the My Plan and Supporting Documents components that most of you will have access to. Before we go into these documents in any detail, though, let me just show you the rest of what is on this page. Just below the components up top, you'll see a list of the teams that you are a member of. In addition, if you click on any one of these team names, you'll also see the name, primary email, and cell phone number for each of the people on your team. You'll also see this Jump to Team button over to the right of the team name. This is a shortcut directly to the plan information for this particular team. At the top right is what I call the hamburger menu in Shield. There you'll see a link to change your password, as well as a link to our help content, where you'll find a number of FAQs that have already been developed for you, as well as the support email address that I mentioned earlier, support@kingsbridgebcp.com. Below the hamburger menu is an announcement section where those that have the access to do so can post messages that all Shield users for this plan can read. So now let's dive into these components I mentioned earlier. First, we'll start with My Plan. This is where you'll find the response section for your plan, where the information that your team needs to respond to a business interruption can be found. Now, the plan is actually much larger than the content you're going to see when you log in. What you have access to is just what you've been granted access to by your Shield administrator. So if you log in and think, wow, there's not much here for such a big organization, it may be that you've just not been granted access to a lot of what's going on. If you've been granted access to more than just this response section, or more than the 3 components we saw on the launch page, you'll see it when you log in. So we're going to talk a little bit about the team concept in Shield. I mentioned teams when we looked at the launch page, where we saw that this user that I'm logged in as is a member of the finance team. Most of our Shield users are on a team. You'll see that right now it doesn't look like there's much here on this page, but these little arrows or chevrons on the left that are pointing to the right indicate there is more to see underneath. So if we click on the word response, you'll see team. And if we click on team, we'll see the finance team that we saw on the previous screen. You should see this finance team is in green. All teams in Shield will show up in the color green, and if we click on that team, it will not only expand to show us the sections available underneath, but it will also show us who is on the team, their role on the team, their phone number where they can be reached, typically a mobile phone number that can receive text or SMS messages. Within the team, you'll see there are other sections. Now, within Shield, there are sections that are permanent and sections that are completely customizable. So the sections you see within the teams that you are a part of may be different from what you're seeing on my screen. So let me start by describing the permanent sections. The BI Business Processes section that you see here is an area where the business processes for your particular team are captured. This is part of the business impact analysis that is typically completed at the start of plan development and then updated every 1 to 3 years to examine the priorities within an organization and the resources required to meet those priorities. The other permanent section you'll see within any given team is this Documents section. I'm going to talk about documents a little later, as that is a whole other component of Shield. This Documents section here is just one way of accessing that other component. It's like a shortcut. Now we'll move to the sections that are completely customizable. Out of the box, Shield has template content to help planners get started with putting their business continuity plan together. However, that template content can be modified or completely deleted. For example, you'll see we have these sections called preparation tasks and response tasks. Everything about these sections can be completely customized. They can be edited, renamed, deleted, or moved around. New sections can be added, and they can even be nested within one another. I'm saying this not because you have the ability to make those types of changes as a read-only user, but just so you know that what you see under your teams may vary quite a bit from what you see here, and it may even vary from time to time when you log in. You will always see the BIA business processes and the documents sections, but everything in between and even the order of these sections will vary. You'll always want to pay attention to these little arrows on the left, as they tell you if there's more content there for you to view. And if you're not sure, as a read-only user, you can't break anything, so just click on it and see what happens. As part of our template, there is typically a preparation task section, as you see here, with action items that a team may want to do in advance of a disaster to allow them to be better prepared. And then we typically include a response task section. If this section has not been renamed within your organization, this is where you typically want to go when disaster strikes. This is the core of your plan, which tells you what to do within different time frames or under different circumstances, depending on the nature of what the disaster has impacted. Here we see a blue section indicating that this is a report. Reports are generated from data tables that are in another part of Shield. For example, there may be a large database of vendors or key contacts in Shield. And from that large database, we can create smaller reports that just include the entries that are relevant to certain teams. Now I'm going to go back up to the response task section because I want to show you another feature of Shield that you may come across in your plan. And that is words that are in blue, such as we see here with key financial info. The blue indicates that this is actually a link to additional information. If we click on this, it's actually going to take us to another location in Shield. It's going to open another tab in my browser, and it's going to display the information in that tab. Now, this particular link will take us to the supporting documents component, and that is a whole other component in Shield that we haven't touched on, but we're going to cover that now. So sometimes you may have large procedural documents or reference documents that are best maintained and referenced in their document form in your business continuity plan. When this is the case, these documents are uploaded to Shield into the supporting documents component. As per our example here, these documents can be hyperlinked to the main plan if there is a step in your response where that document would be valuable to reference. So I've talked a lot about documents, so I think it's time for us to take a look. We can get to the supporting documents component via a hyperlink that we see here, via the document section within a team, or we can go there also through the drop-down menu that contains the three main components that we saw on our launch page when we first logged in. So I'm going to go through the main component menu to supporting documents, and then you can see what is there. So similar to what we saw in my plan, you will only be able to see documents that you have been granted access to. So you will see a team folder that corresponds to the teams that you've been assigned to. You may be assigned to more than one team, and in that case, you'll see more than one team folder here. You will also see a public folder where any documents that are relevant to anyone within the organization may be housed. You may also be granted access to other custom folders that don't correspond necessarily to a team. So don't be surprised if you see other folders here. So we've talked about folders, but you may be wondering where the actual documents are. If we click on one of these folders, the documents within the folder will be displayed below, and on the right, you'll see the list of people that have been granted access to this folder. If we select one of these documents on the left, you'll see on the right the large green Download Now button. When you click that button, the document will download to your computer where you can then open it and do with it as you please. So now that we've seen what the supporting documents component looks like, let me demonstrate for you how the hyperlinks I mentioned earlier work. I'll just navigate my way back to my plan where we started, and I'll click on the hyperlink in the text. Shield is then going to open a new tab in your browser and take you directly to the document that relates to the link. With the new tab open, you can then move back and forth between where you were in Shield and where the link has taken you. So it's a nice way to navigate through your plan by leveraging those hyperlinks. Now, hyperlinks can be used for other purposes. They can also link to other sections in Shield as well as external websites. In each case, a new tab will always open, so you can always easily find your way back to your starting point. So that covers the main components in Shield that a read-only user is typically granted access to. You may have access to other components, though we don't see that as often. Now, at the very start, I mentioned the importance of changing your password to something that is easy to remember. So let's just go through that step now before we move on to the Shield mobile app. So if we go to our little hamburger menu in the top right, you may recall that there was a little drop-down menu where one of the options is change password. You're going to enter your current password and then enter your new password, enter it a second time, and then click Save. Now, when you click Save, Shield is going to log you out of the system, and you will then need to log back in with your new password, so don't let that surprise you. Lastly, before I move to the mobile app, let me just show you this little wizard hat at the bottom of the screen. When you click the wizard hat, you'll see two options. If you need a refresher on how to find your way around Shield or how to change your password, you can simply click on the wizard hat and select one of the options available to you. For example, if I select changing your password, you'll see that the wizard will start to guide me through the steps I just showed you to go through the password changing process. So now the mobile app. This is what the app looks like in the App Store. Just so you have a sense of what you're looking for, you'll want to search for Kingsbridge Shield. Now I'm demonstrating on the iPhone today, but the app will look very similar on the Google Play Store for Android users. Once you have the app loaded on your phone, the login credentials for the app are the same as the credentials you use to log into the web-based application. So this is important. If you change your password in the web-based application, you're going to have to enter that new password into the mobile app as well. The app will actually prompt you that there's a problem with your password, and it will ask you to log in again with your new credentials. You also have the option of going into the settings for the app on your phone and changing the password there to match what you've used in the web-based application if you wish. Either method will work. Once you've logged in, you're going to get a warning telling you that you're about to put a local copy of the plan on your device, at least the portions of the plan you've been granted access to. In order to keep that local copy up to date, you need to sync the plan on a regular basis. And you can do that by swiping down on the list of plans, if you have more than one plan on your phone. So you'll want to open the app every now and then and refresh your plan to ensure that it remains current as your plan changes and evolves. Once you do that, you'll have a little spinning wheel at the top which indicates to you that your phone is syncing with the Shield server and pulling over all of the content that you have access to. Now, depending on how many teams you're on and how many documents might be a part of your plan, this syncing process can take several minutes the first time you log in. So we recommend that for the first time, you might want to log into the app, then just leave your phone plugged in to allow it to take its time to do all of the necessary syncing. After the initial sync, the app will only be syncing changes that have been made to the plan or to your access, so the syncing process will be much faster. So let's take a look at what Shield looks like on an actual phone. When I open the app, it will immediately start to try syncing. If I want to manually sync the phone at any time, I can just swipe down with my thumb on this main screen and it will force a sync. This is the exact same content that we just looked at on the website. It will just be presented in a slightly different way since now we're working on a mobile device as opposed to the web application. If we tap on the plan name, we then have the option of going to My Team or to the Documents folders. If I go to Team, we're going to see the team we've been working with, and when we click on that team, we'll see the sections we saw on the website, the preparation tasks, the response tasks, etc. We also see team contacts. This is where we can see all the people on your team with their contact information. When we look at a section, you'll see all the content you saw on the website, but just a little cozier as now we're looking at a small phone screen. You can also look at sections within sections. For example, the response task section had a report that we saw earlier. We can go to that report on the mobile app as well. We can also see documents on your phone. If we go to Documents, we'll see the document folders we have available to us, and inside those folders, we see our documents. Now, one difference here between the phone and the web app is that instead of downloading a local copy of the document each time you want to view it, as we do on the website, the phone actually loads copies of all documents each time it syncs, which is part of the reason that syncing process takes so long. However, it means that when you want to see a document, it's available locally, immediately, as soon as you tap on it. So we've now been through an overview of what you can do as a read-only user. If you want to explore Shield further, feel free to review our support page where we have lots of information on how to use Shield, support.kingsbridgebcp.com. We also have a support email address that you can use to send us questions whenever they come up, support@kingsbridgebcp.com.